first week of the conference started with such a high momentum that got everyone believing that Paris is a success. The last major climate conference 5 years ago in Copenhagen failed to secure sign-up to a universal target for reducing emissions. In advance of the Paris talks, 184 countries, including Nigeria, have submitted individual commitments, large or small, to slow global warming. Many delegates said the large turnout of leaders, almost all expressing sympathy for the French people, after attacks by Islamic State militants killed 130 in Paris last month, set a less hostile tone than the one that prevailed in the last talks in Copenhagen in 2009.
So far, I have optimistic to hear positive responses from especially from the developed country that opting to come up with very ambitious type of legally binding agreements on issues, climate financing, adaptation, and the mitigation issues. Yeah.
We're more optimistic than Copenhagen, definitely. Copenhagen didn't have as much as pledges before the summit, and here we actually have a lot of good 95% of the countries actually pledged that they're going to do some emission reductions, and also the heads of states were here in the first couple of days, so we're pretty optimistic that something at least a bit ambitious will come out of this COP.
It looks like, hey, we have come to the brink. Any little tilt will go down the precipice, and I don't think anybody wants that catastrophe to occur. So I am hopeful that what happened in Copenhagen will not happen again in Paris.
The French president said he was encouraged by the start of the conference that is planned to run until the 11th of December. It's set off well, but it has to arrive too, he concluded. With encouragement from 150 world leaders ringing in their ears, government negotiators in Paris sought to turn that rhetoric of unity into text of a global deal to slow global warming. But as the leaders departed Paris, it became apparent that disagreements which had blocked a deal over 4 years of lead-up negotiations remained unresolved. Negotiators from the 195 countries with a place at the table resumed work on a draft text that is riddled with sticky issues to be settled. The biggest obstacle is money. How to come up with the billions of dollars developing nations need to shift from fossil fuels and adapt to the impact of climate change.
Currently, the world is facing two very big threats: climate change and terrorism. And I am completely sure that dealing with our objective and reaching what we are seeking, to have an agreement, it is the only way not only to face the climate change threat, but also the terrorism threat.
Change in temperature at the surface of our planet is one of a global indicator of the increased energy stored in the climate system. Change in sea level is another indicator of that. And when climate is changing, the temperature change is not uniform. It's always larger over continents than over land, and particularly strong over the Arctic. So there are regional dimensions, and the use of the global mean temperature at the Earth's surface is just to reduce different amounts of climate change to just one single global matrix. And already in the Arctic today, warming has been beyond 2 degrees. Maybe it's also nice to remind that the 2-degree target is a political choice and was never prescribed by scientists. The last report clearly shows that the magnitude of warming will generate, depending on its magnitude, the risk of severe, pervasive, and sometimes irreversible impacts, and sometimes also beyond adaptation capabilities. And between 1.5 and 2 degrees, there are, I would say, 2 examples of long-term consequences. One is for coral reefs as a specifically vulnerable ecosystem. Another one is for the long-term risks related to ice sheet destabilization and sea level rise.